Lads, who's put this big bottle on the table? That's not a reference to Coventry, I hope, this season. Let's get that out of the way before we begin. Welcome back to the Sportsman Untitled, brought to you by Betfred. We will talk about Javi Gracia leaving Watford later on in the show. But first, then we have to start at the top of the table, and my little gag that started the show. Coventry lose again, 2-1 at QPR, another away defeat. Really poor form recently and reasons to be concerned.
Yeah, so we were sat here in November thinking, how is this going to play out now? And there was kind of three scenarios that each got slightly more unlikely. Were Coventry going to stay the course and score 100 points? Were they going to regress to the mean and land on 87 and win the title still? Or was there going to be some kind of collapse? We said, look, top 10 form will do it for Coventry, but Coventry have been 14th over the last 12 games. We've all frozen the table at the 4-2 win at Middlesbrough, and the gap was 10 points. There is no gap anymore, Simon, and you'll be able to shed a bit more light on the problems. I think we've all seen how open Coventry are. I know we're sat here on deadline day and a Frank the Tank-sized reinforcement might be arriving in central midfield to help Matt Grimes out, but are we starting to enter the psychological bit where it gets in the players and the fan base's heads? And I mean, the worst one I've seen was, I think Leeds lost 9 from Christmas or maybe from January in 2018-19, and it just became a thing. Is it becoming a thing now for the Sky Blues?
Yes, it's so much a thing. I'm so rattled. It's in my head constantly. No, I think with Coventry, and you can speak on this, Gab, as well if you want. I don't think we've been a very good team for the last 2 or 3 months, and that's borne out by that form table you mentioned. 10th over the past 15 games is potentially the most obvious one because we've played 30 games now this season. So for half the season we've played so far, we've been just a top half team. The first 15 games was amazing, incredible, top of the league, went on that winning run as well. But actually, the form we've seen in the last 15 games, Gab, hasn't been that good. There's so many stats we can go through as well. No away wins in 8, I think it is now, in all competitions. No clean sheets in 6.
Yeah.
In 5 of the last 6 away games, Coventry have scored first and failed to win any of them, including the last 2, where they've gone 1-0 up at Norwich and lost 2-1, gone 1-0 up at QPR, who had loads of injuries, and still lost. It feels like more of a mentality thing now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to. I've had no part in the bottling gag. I'm gonna
That was
say
all
that.
me. That was all me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think for me, Coventry definitely need to make some tweaks to the team now. They've been linked with Frank Onyeka, a move for the Brentford midfielder. I think they definitely need a tweak to that midfield area because you can see Matt Grimes is getting exposed there at the moment. And I don't trust him out of possession. And I think you look at the performance at QPR, and even when Coventry took the lead at Loftus Road, they hadn't been playing particularly well, and so it wasn't a huge surprise when QPR came back. So I think there's a big moment in Coventry's season. I still think that they've put themselves in a very good position over the course of the campaign, but I think it's really important that Frank Lampard and Joe Edwards make the right tweaks now.
Can I just say something positive? Coventry are in first place and they play Oxford at home next. Then they play the head-to-head against Middlesbrough. If they score 4 points in the next 2 games, they'll be back at 2 points per game, and by definition, they won't have lost to Middlesbrough. So this can turn by February the 16th. Obviously, the direction of travel is that's not going to happen at the moment. How are you feeling about that head-to-head?
The home form and the away form disparity is strange as well. There's something you can't
Quite a few teams doing that though this season, isn't there?
I mean, we'll come on to Derby in a bit. We're doing completely
the other way
the
round.
opposite. But we have been good at home. We've beaten Millwall and Leicester in our last 2, albeit by scorelines of 2-1. And you could probably argue that Millwall were the better team when we played them. But at home, we do seem to be more dominant. Hopefully there's Onyeka, as you say, coming in, or another midfielder at some point before the window closes. It can turn quickly. But having said that, this dream of winning the title and running away with it is long gone. And there's a lot of work to do. I think Lampard has to take some accountability as well and find a different system, because what's frustrated Coventry fans for the last few weeks, especially in the away games, is the fact that we play 4-2-3-1 every single week, and the changes off the bench don't change the formation. People were I was calling for us to play 3 at the back because we were quite successful last year.
Simon, haven't you been leading in these away games?
Yeah.
So it's not like the system's not working to get you in front in the game,
That's
right?
a very fair point, but leading a game away from home and then not making any changes. The goal we conceded against QPR was Liam Kitchen on the halfway line, Jada Silva in the number 10 position. What are we doing? We're 1-0 up away from home. I think the game management's an issue, and also the lack of tactical tweaks. In terms of chasing the game, though, it's always Ellis Sims, Forhadji right. It's never them together.
I'm a big believer, Simon, that when you see a drop in form over a significant portion of the season, like a quarter or a third, you've got to then do something. There's a similar situation at Walsall last season where they were top of the league and miles clear in January, but because they didn't change formation and adjust to setbacks and rejig things, they got stuck into a bit of a rut and ended up not getting promoted. So I think it's really important that Frank Lampard makes some intelligent tweaks. I don't think the dream's gone. I think there's still changes that can be made that can change the trajectory of things. Still top of the league, of course, but I think it's got to be made now.
Yeah, so in 2 home games, as Ben mentions, could turn things around quickly. Right, that's enough moaning about Cov, I think. Let's give some praise to Middlesbrough. 5 wins in a row, Ben, absolutely flying. Joint top of the league. They've closed that gap to Coventry now, and things are just getting better and better for them, and a really good home win against Norwich.
Yeah, we always look at the trends, don't we? And the trend now is that Middlesbrough, if everything kind of goes the way it's going, are going to go on and win the title, is the way it looks as we're sat here right now. Kim Helberg's come in, everybody loves him, they're playing beautifully, and I can't think of a better word than this win over Norwich felt very promotion-y, didn't it? It's like, it's a home game in the run-in. Not all things go your way. You have to get the job done. The talisman turns up and smashes one in the top corner. 30 out of 30 starts for Hayden Hackney. Just fantastic season that he's one for the ages if he takes his hometown club, up to
That's a hackneyed expression, Ben.
Up to the Premier League. I'm not even going to sell that one, hey?
There's the sliding doors moment, isn't it, Gab? We all thought, and we were sat on the show, Hackney was going to go through the door at Ipswich Town in the summer. It looked very, very close to happening. It didn't happen, and what a sliding doors moment that is for Middlesbrough and potentially Ipswich as well. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I speak to Johnny Bullock, who's a friend of the podcast, and we often joke about him drinking the Kool-Aid when it comes to positive times for Middlesbrough, and I think he's swimming in the Kool-Aid at the moment because Middlesbrough are by far the form team in the Championship and looking so strong at the moment. And one thing I love about Borough is the artificial transitions where they're very good at playing out from the back. Adil Malanda looks like a really nice signing in January, but they invite the opposition on and then they find ways of pulling them apart and engineering all situations that are akin to counter-attacking, and I think that just shows such good coaching. And they've got a combination of the in-possession patterns of play that we associated with Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick that made them one of the most inventive, creative teams in the Championship, but also some of the rigidity and those foundations that Rob Edwards implemented, and they've got a perfect blend at the moment. And I've changed my stance very quickly. I would have gone with their promotion rivals Ipswich and Coventry finishing in the top 2 if you'd asked me a couple of weeks ago. But now I think are we almost talking about Middlesbrough's favourites?
It's interesting. The odds haven't quite moved that way yet, I don't think. But I mean, you have to take them so seriously, and in this sort of form, difficult to stop. The
odds are going to move if they win that head-to-head on February the 16th, aren't they?
Absolutely. And you had a point about Malanda as well. Is it 5 wins?
I think he's 5 for 5 since he's come in, and I mean it's very easy to look at these things and sometimes say, oh, it's never that simple, isn't it? It's always the compounding of many things kind of happening at the same time. But I was a bit confused by that sign at the start of the season. You're going to drop that amount of money on a player and let him finish his season out in MLS, but it appears to have worked beautifully. And I don't think we should forget, and this probably applies to Coventry as well, that in the absence of the parachute teams being, well, none of them are in the top 3 at the moment, which have dropped out, not very many people had a Coventry Middlesbrough top 2 at round 30, did they? But sat here right now, you'd have to you'd have to make Middlesbrough favourites, as Gab alludes to.
And what a joyous season it has been to get the parachute teams out of the way and have a bit of change at the
I don't know about that. finally support one of them. Typical, eh?
I know, exactly. I'm talking of a team that we've loved watching recently. Hull City, Gab, beat Blackburn 1-0, up to third in the league. Another away win, 4 wins in a row in total. Up the Tigers.
They're great. They can.
I hope that gets left in. Leave it
in. They continue to defy the data, and there is this I think it intensifies now, because I think earlier in the season it would have been very easy to say they're outperforming their sort of performance numbers, if you like, and that's maybe unsustainable. But I think as we're in February now, it gets harder and harder to say that, and increasingly you have to take Hull City very seriously. One thing I did want to touch on with regards to Hull is the signing of Lewis Kumas, because although it was him and Carl Joseph who came off the bench in that 1-0 victory at Blackburn, where again a little bit, things went for them perhaps, they do seem to have a lovely understanding, because Carl Joseph is a very good facilitator. It's something he's done throughout his career. When he played alongside Alfie May at Cheltenham, he was very selfless and sort of played that kind of supporting role, if you like, and created space for another forward. And Lewis Kumas is quite good at coming into those goal-scoring danger areas later on in moves. He scored a goal for Birmingham a few weeks ago that was a bit like that, sort of coming off the left. And so I think those two, with Joseph vacating the space and facilitating and Kumas kind of ghosting in, I think they could develop a real understanding, and it was nice to see signs of that.
Yeah, absolutely. They did actually, shock horror, Hull won an XG battle this season against Blackburn, 1.54 to 0.5, Ben, but they've defied all of the data. But I think there is reasons behind that. They've got really good forwards and efficient shot taking as well.
There's plenty of reasons. I'm not getting drawn into this data debate here. I know how that goes down with the Hull fans at the moment. I think it's a significant week because they overtook Ipswich, and now all the Hull fans saying include us in the top 3 conversation. They're literally in the top 3 now, and I think that's a season high peak. I think you've got to give credit for the recruitment as well. I know we've kind of homed in on Jakirovic and seemingly knitting together the impossible job to have them in third, but they're under embargo, they're under fee restriction, and we think salary restriction as well. And they've brought in Hirakawa, Dowell, McNair, Kumas, who you mentioned, and Collier. So they've done the absolute maximum. I think this is going to be the theme with Hull, stretching the elastic band to the max this season. You talk about the goal scorers. I think 11 in 12 games, it's been a 0 or a 1 against Hull. And the information I've got about Blackburn is that this was not pretty, as everybody says after they've played Big Val's Blackburn this season, but get it done. And so it's a hell of a run. I don't necessarily believe in league table punditing, and that just because these two teams are here that they have an equal chance of being here at the end. But this is so impressive from Hull.
And we will come on to Tuesday night's games probably at some point. Both Hull and Ipswich in action on Tuesday night. If Hull win on Tuesday night, Gab, they're 2 points behind Coventry and 2 points behind Borough with the same amount of games played. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, I think we're sort of increasingly forced to consider them in this automatic promotion equation. I shied away from it when I did it for my own podcast, because I didn't invite a Hull City fan on, which maybe was a mistake. But I think I think they're mathematically they're in it, and you've got to say they've got an outside chance.
And 5 home games in a row as well, Ben.
That helps, doesn't it? It's just so funny that Ipswich has got 5 away in a row and Hull have got 5. And this is all kind of on one FA Cup draw and like one postponed game for each of the sides. But look, one of kind of 3 things is going to happen now, and it's almost like Hull, you've got yourself into the conversation. What are you going to do now? Because if Hull are going to go on and win the title, as Hull fans are kind of discussing, this run needs to now continue, and you need to see something like, beat Watford. I think they won at Borough, didn't they? I think they played Coventry.
0-0 at the CBS, second game of the season.
Yeah, so there's games coming up here, and if Hull are going to do this continues, and they're probably going to have to win some head-to-heads. But with the head-to-head between Borough and Coventry coming up, and playing a potentially rudderless Watford on Tuesday night, could be extremely close to one of those teams in 2 rounds' time.
Talking of odds, maybe pop the odds for Hull to get promoted on screen. Don't have them in front of me, but I bet they are still outsiders in this promotion race. And with these, we could get to the point at the end of February after 5 home games, including the Chelsea FA Cup game, which they need to take.
If you want some context, Simon, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Hull were 22nd in the betting market in September.
Wow.
Not in June, in September. Obviously, after the transfer window closed and the embargoes.
Yeah,
that's where the money was going or not going.
I can't think of a promotion which would be more of a shock than this in recent years. I'm trying, like Huddersfield was obviously a bit of a surprise, but Hull coming from, I think I had them in my bottom 3 at the start of the season. I don't know if you did as well. We definitely had them in the bottom 6. For them to potentially get top 2 is the biggest surprise, I think.
I think for them to finish in the top 6, which is looking increasingly likely, I think would represent an enormous achievement from Hull. With incredible respect to what they've achieved, I would still expect the automatic promotion to come from 2 of Coventry, Ipswich and Middlesbrough. But I think for them to finish in the top 6 would be an unbelievable achievement from Sergej Ikovic and Dean Holden.
Can I just pick up on Gab's point there about the top 6? Hull have a game in hand, and the last of the home games is against Derby. So if you do some lovely maths for Hull fans, if they win the game in hand and they beat Derby, that 8-point gap they've got now could potentially be, you tell me, 14, 15, 16, depending on what happens in the other Derby game. So playoffs really are looking locked down if they get a couple of key results over this run at the MKM in February.
We will come on to other teams as well. I will say the top 5 do look set for the playoffs already. And I know that's a big statement to make given we've got such a long way to go, but those teams are looking really, really good. It's your job. Gab.
That's your job.
Ipswich did drop points though, maybe surprisingly at home to Preston 1-1, late Jack Clark penalty. I purposely haven't come to Ben first on this. And they've got this big away streak of fixtures coming up. We have spoken all season about them having the deepest squad, the most finances, a really good manager. Are they almost in danger of missing the boat here on a top 2 finish?
Well, thanks for interrupting me when I was doing my Roy Keane impression, because I think that's probably helped me. It wasn't the best. I think on Ipswich, it's interesting because on the one hand we do talk about their laudable strength in depth, and that is a very obvious point to make. And yet at the same time, and perhaps Ben can expand on this, it does feel like there remains this reliance on individual players. So, for example, when George Hurst came off the bench against Preston North End, on Saturday, it made this transformative impact, and I still think Ipswich, in many aspects of their play, rely on George Hurst. I still think they rely on Marcelino Nunes, and so I still feel like there is that individual player reliance in certain areas. Ben, would you agree with that?
Yes and no. Okay. I think they rely on the George Hurst role and somebody playing that role particularly, because obviously when Azon's in there, you're talking about the person to lead from the front and a bit more physicality. We're sat here on deadline day in a kind of submarine, not knowing what's happening, out in the world. I think if you promised Ipswich fans, and I love George Hurst, an upgrade on George Hurst and maybe a Sam Surridge,
Richard Kone as well.
Richard Kone's already played for 2 clubs this season, so that will not be happening. As much as there was links at the start of the season, wasn't there? But and with Nunes, they did. I mean, Mehmeti kind of came into that position, but it's amazingly how quick. And again, not moaning about teams setting up to stop Ipswich. Go figure. That's what you're going to do against a well-stacked squad. But you're right. If Jaden Philogene isn't scoring the same goal 15 times over at Portman Road within, getting that opening goal, then there has been problems, hasn't there?
Well, I'd say on the left wing, that's where you've got Jack Clark, and that probably is the position where you've got that lovely wealth of options, I suppose. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether Mehmeti can be a good replacement for Marcelino Nunes. I think he's going to operate a bit more advanced than Nunes, but not quite like another forward like Sammy Smodics would be playing there, perhaps.
Absolutely. This week isn't about Ipswich, so they've only got a draw. We won't touch on them too long. We
gained
need
a point
to
on Coventry.
Yeah.
It's just a 5 they've given away to Hull and Borough I'm worried about over the last couple of games.
Potentially more points to gain.
You said it wasn't about Ipswich, and I made it about Ipswich.
I'm trying to move on here, Ben.
Get in there and make it about you.
Make it about you.
Portsmouth, they do host Ipswich on Tuesday, but high as a kite, Ben. What a result for them this weekend. 3-0 winners against West Brom. Fully deserved as well. West Brom created an XG of 0.09 and had one shot on target. There was an issue with Isaac Price and the fans at the end confronting them. Bit of bitterness from the away end. They are in serious danger of going down this season, West Brom, aren't they?
Yes. Do you want me to focus on Pompey or West Brom
You
first?
go West Brom. We'll do Pompey in a minute.
You give me the negative one. I need to be positive about Pompey.
Yeah, well, take your pick, mate.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Pompey?
I've got my head in West Brom mode now. But so you've gone from unknown quantity in terms of Ryan Mason in the Championship, a young manager. Gab made a very sensible point last week about Eric Ramsey trying to fix the plane while it's flying in the air, as in coming in mid-season. And what's changing here other than the players are trying to get their head round a different style? And I mean, look at the goals conceded since Ramsey has been in. He's got 1 point. I did think they deserved a point against Derby, but that came in stoppage time from a set play with Mepham forcing it over the line. And then what did we have? A 3-2 reverse against Borough. Okay, fine. Borough great at the moment. 5-0 at home to Norwich. 3-0 away to Pompey. Borough at the top of the table. Norwich and Pompey aren't at the top of the table. So this is so worrying for West Brom because, yeah, you can have a good squad, but if things aren't strategically going in the right direction, then yeah, it could really, really take a turn. And they will be in the bottom 3 if Blackburn, at time of recording, beat Sheffield Wednesday tomorrow.
I think this is their worst performance of the season, Gab. I don't know if that's much of a stretch to say from West Brom, but this was a game where I thought, test your mettle, see what you can do at Fratton Park. It's a relegation 6-pointer. What have you got? And they got absolutely hammered. Deservedly lost 3-0. Could even be more.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting just touching on Isaac Price. I don't want to hammer the lad too much, but it's interesting because when he first signed for West Brom, I think it was last January, I spoke to somebody from Belgium who had sort of watched his football, and they said very gifted player, but maybe has attitude issues, maybe can drift in and out of games. And then I spoke to Chris Hall, who's an excellent podcaster on Westbromwich Albion, a few months after that, and said no signs of that. He's showing a brilliant attitude and is at it every game, and he was fantastic in the second half of last season. But I just wonder if this season we're seeing him possibly slip back into old habits, and I think it's going to take some strong management to correct that, because I don't think that having it out with fans after a game, I accept that you're emotional and whatever else, but you've got to behave in a certain way when you're a professional footballer. So yeah, I think there's tough times all round, and obviously, as Ben touched on, I think bit of naivety from the new head coach, I would argue. So you put everything into the mix. Criticisms of Andrew Nestor as well, as sporting director. Some big questions to be asked at Westbromwich Albion.
Simon, are they going to have a bit of a gamble today? Because if I'm Eric Ramsey, I'm saying, okay, raise me some money. Let's do a deal today. Give me an Eric Ramsey player that I can start to build around.
Yeah, it's a big risk though, isn't it? They've got to take a
bigger
gamble.
risk going to League One, Simon.
I know. That is true. They've now conceded 47 goals, by the way, which is the second highest in the division, behind only Sheffield Wednesday. So defensively, you mentioned the issues. Horrendous. How are we feeling about Pompey now? Massive win for them. Home game to come on Tuesday night. We all thought Fratton Park form might be important as they move away from the relegation zone. Feeling more confident they're staying up now.
I'm feeling very positive about Pompey as they come to play Ipswich tomorrow night. And again, you talk about sliding doors earlier in the show. Pompey had half their first team out injured when that game was due to be played in early January. So that might come up very nicely for the...
It's just convenient, isn't it, that they also got the FA Cup game on against Arsenal as well.
You said that, I didn't. But no, things work out nicely and marginal gains need to be exploited, don't they? And good luck if you can. But they're in great form, aren't they? 1 defeat in 9, and we've seen this movie before, haven't we? John Mousinho getting things moving, particularly at Fratton, and getting up and at them. And it does look like, I know we're going to go on and talk about signings. You want an impact from your January signings. Adams and Ali have given them that, and although I've seen this goal many, many times, and he won't be scoring this goal on Tuesday because he's barred from playing, but great to see Connor Chaplin scoring.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think for me, I don't know how well they recruited in the summer, which is why I think the first half of the season their form wasn't as good as they'd have liked. But what I do think is that the additions of Ali and Ebu Adams, they've added that athleticism which they maybe didn't add sufficiently in the summer, and that's enabled is this sort of incisive one-touch football that they've played forward, early with positivity, those through balls, and they've really opened and unhinged their opponents. And I think that, to me, that's Portsmouth at their best. It's intensity, athleticism, aggression, and being positive in the way that they play forward. And I think that's what we're seeing from that moment. But adding pace and athleticism to their squad, I don't think you can underestimate that the importance of that.
I think you've absolutely nailed it there, Gab. And we must round off by talking about Derby's massive win on Friday night, Ben. Feels like a bit of a lifetime ago now, but 5-0 at Bristol City they went and won. The best away team in the league, bar none.
We'll point out for the whole fans complaining, they're level on points in the away table, but the goal difference is good after a 5-0 win. And what we had, Coventry win 5-0 at Wednesday, we've had Norwich win 5-0 at West Brom, we now have Derby win 5-0 at Bristol City. We talk a lot about game state, don't we? And this was an absolute Eustace special. Both teams want to counter-press each other. He gets the first goal. Struber knows one speed. What immediately happens, they get the second goal, and then Eustace Ball just picks them off. By the way, Agyemang is a monster up top. And Sammy Smodics, likely to be in there. And of course, Derby play Ipswich next week, don't they? But no, brilliant from Eustace. We thought they've been a bit undervalued in the markets through the season, and it's not a great surprise to me to see a John Eustace team top 10, pushing for the playoffs.
We speak so highly of Eustace's teams, and even at the start of the season I thought pretty safe bet they'll probably be top 8. They're going to be in and around. They're now 7th. They were in the playoffs briefly on Friday night, Gab. You just know what you're going to get with him, and he does always come good. It feels a bit like Mousinho. Give him enough time, give him the season, don't panic, let him do what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And one player I wanted to pick out was Bobby Clark, because for parts of the season he's had to play as part of a two-man midfield, which maybe at times limits him a little bit in how much he can get forward and how freely he can do that. But Ashton Gate on Friday night he played as a number 10, and that allowed him to make some lovely sort of third man runs to create space for other players. And Bobby Clark, just for his movement and the selflessness, because often when you're a young player, you're at Liverpool, you want to stand out individually, and it's easy to make those runs inward, but Bobby Clark's willing to make the runs away and create space for other players, and I think that makes for a lovely attacking equilibrium for Derby County, and that's part of why they're so efficient.
It's a great shout, Gab, because Eustace almost wants him to be two players, doesn't he? He's the 8 without the ball, but when they're doing those mega fast transitions, get up, get in the box, and we saw him running through behind a very high Bristol City line, albeit without Rob Atkinson.
Do you know what? I think Bristol City haven't conceded many goals before Friday night, so I think it's a real credit to Derby County. But you know how it was possibly a sign of how Bristol City's high line and man-to-man system could be their undoing, because they don't really have much of a zonal structure. Gerhard Struber is very much about being aggressive and going man-to-man, but it can look like kids on a school playground just chasing the ball if you get it wrong, and I think Bristol City got it wrong on Friday night. But they've done great work overall this season, but Friday night wasn't for them.
Absolutely. Ben, you've got the table in front of you, haven't you? I love the race for 6th place, because Wrexham, thank you for passing this over, Wrexham 47, Derby 45, Preston 44, Bristol City, as you mentioned, 43, Watford and QPR now also on 43, Stoke and Birmingham on 42, Southampton on 40. It's so wide open, but that traffic looks like it's now competing for 1 or maybe 2 places in the playoffs. I don't know where this is going to go. I don't even know if there's a question here. Don't even know if there's a question here. But I'm glad to see there's so much competition yet again for the playoffs in the Championship. How about that?
Well, you wonder if the transfer window is going to be key, because we know Wrexham have already done Viner. We know Derby might be doing Smodic. Birmingham have been pretty smart and got 4-5, is it now, Gab, done already. You wonder if those clubs with the capacity to just pep things up in January, and it's only for 16 games when you get to February the 2nd, whether they might have the edge there on maybe sides. I mean, you mentioned sort of Preston and Bristol City who've been up there, but maybe aren't having a great January. You wonder whether those sides might come strong.
Can I ask a question to the panel? How many points do we think gets you stick that 6th spot, if we assume it is a race for 6th and Millwall and Hull do sort of tie it up? Because I actually think there's lots of good teams. I would go right down to Southampton in 14th in terms of the competition. And I just wonder, because there is that many good teams, whether that actually brings the points total down because they're going to take points off one another. And
well, if we add your two theories together, if Simon's right about there being a top 5, then do we get a gap between 5th and 6th? And if you're right about teams beating each other or maybe draws bringing the points total, then I can't be as low as 68 like it was last season. Surely not.
I'd go low 7. I'd maybe go as high as 73. I understand the points of they're going to take points off each other, but what are we on? Wrexham on 16 games to go, 47 points. So that means they need 26.
Right, you have the final say. If one team is likely to make a really nice run, 2 points per game for the last 12 games into 6th place, who do you like?
Birmingham.
Oof.
I think Wrexham will finish in the playoffs, and I've said that for a little while, but if one team from bottom half of the table, I just think all Birmingham needs to do is sort out their away form, and they got an away win this weekend, which actually brings us to Sportsman Untitled Extra later in the week. We're going to have a look at the Leicester-Birmingham game, so maybe we'll talk more about Birmingham City in that one. We need to talk, lads, about a managerial departure, not sacking at Watford. Javi Gracia saying enough is enough and walking out the door, Gab. A home defeat to Swansea, disappointing run of form, but caught me by surprise a little bit, this one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because Watford had gone on a long run of 1 defeat in 13 up until 4 or 5 games ago, and there were lots of people who had been critical of Javi Gracia previously that were maybe eating humble pie, but it swung back quite quickly since then, and partly because they would argue Javi Gracia has changed formation. And I think if I look at the Watford squad, I think it's a 4-2-3-1 squad, because I think, when Chelsea had Eden Hazard and Juan Mata and Oscar and those attacking midfielders, I see Watford squad as almost like a championship version of that, where you've got lots of wide players and attacking midfielders that could do with a certain amount of tactical freedom, whereas Javi Gracia is using that squad and playing a sort of Mick McCarthy 4-4-2, which is much more limiting for the wide men, and you're not really allowed to get a number 10 in, which is kind of the whole point of the Watford squad. So there's definitely a feeling that it's being misused a little bit, and I think a lot of the criticism of Javi Gracia is born out of frustration for that. So I can see why that change has happened.
Javi felt, this is a statement, Javi felt he no longer had the motivation and was not the right man to continue coaching this exciting group of young players. And it was an interesting announcement from Watford, because they said how sad and disappointed they were, always finding a different way to part ways with a manager, it seems, and they're going to be on their 3rd manager through no fault of their own already this season, Ben. I just think it's I think it's a disappointing one, but I see it almost in the way that Middlesbrough lost Rob Edwards and brought in an upgrade. There's a chance that Watford, who are I think only a point outside the playoffs still, could roll the dice and bring in a manager who does get the best out of these attacking players and keep pushing up and improve.
I don't know which analogy to go down, whether we're going down the school playground, or whether we're going back to your ex, knowing that it's not going to work, and nobody being surprised when it doesn't work out.
Quique Sanchez Flores, anyone?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. But I don't know. You're never surprised with anything Pozzo and anything Watford. You're right, it is a bit different because it's a resignation and not a sacking this time. The statement, I don't know whether that's entirely necessary to kind of go, wasn't us. He wanted to go. Look where the squad is. The squad's good.
We were so disappointed. This
one's not on us. But I think looking at his press conferences through January, the Watford fans have not been surprised that something has come to a head here. Dare we say Marty Cifuentes, just straight from one job out of the fire into the even hotter furnace, to try and adapt the cliche there. But yeah, we shall see. And you talk about sliding doors, frozen technical area at the MKM, with Watford, as Gad says, the hot hand in the league. Game gets cancelled. What happens if that game goes ahead? Watford win. Where would Hull be now? Where would Watford be? We sit here with Hull being talked about in the title race and Gracia out of Watford.
It's absolutely remarkable, isn't it? A few names in the frame I'll throw your way, Gab. Will Still, Marty Cifuentes, Russell Martin and Jose Arojo Martin. Do we think this will be another kind of foreign manager appointment with little Championship experience, or do we think we will see a Cifuentes or even a Will Still take this job? How do you think Watford are going to play this?
I think they need someone with a track record of developing young players, because when you've got a squad of this kind of profile, it needs to be someone who loves coaching and improving young players and helping them fulfil their potential. Because I think if you don't go too much on the collective and not enough on the individual, you can miss out on some of that kind of one-to-one coaching that some of these players might need. I would probably go for somebody who can offer some good technical coaching, but also is good at has a good relationship with young players and is good at managing that side of it. I think that's what Watford need. Wouldn't surprise me if they looked in the foreign market.
I want to see Will Still get it. There's an outside shout. I think.
Hasn't his missus got big Watford links as well?
Has she? I don't
girl,
know
isn't she? Yeah.
Oh no.
Emma Saunders.
Oh yes, yeah. Sorry, the name escaped me. I think he might be a good fit. I think the underlying numbers at Southampton were better than their results, which obviously is a bit of a dangerous game to play. Look at Hull City, but I feel like he's had a bit of a taste of English football, and why not? Why not have a 6-month roll of the dice where you try and get a team in the Premier League?
Be fun, wouldn't it? I mean, the good news when you listed all those names is they're all out of work, because Watford never pay the compensation. They always seem to take, and it is normally somebody, frankly, I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about, I've never heard of, that comes in from foreign shores. He
is a bit of a three at the back manager though, isn't he? Will Still, which might not marry up. Anyway, we'll have to wait and see on Watford, boys. But it is transfer deadline day. We're recording this I don't even know what time it is, in the afternoon of deadline day, so plenty of deals still to happen. But I wanted to ask you both, any deals that have caught your eye in the Championship this window so far, and which is your favourite? Gab, who do you like the look of?
Well, I wanted to talk to Ben about the Dan Neil signing for Ipswich Town, because I think it was a real coming-of-age season for him last year, from multiple perspectives, both embracing a deeper role, playing as a 6 in the Championship rather than as a number 8, as he'd been more naturally accustomed to doing so, and also being Sunderland captain, carrying the weight of that club. I'm sure will have done wonders for his development. And I suppose I just look at it. I like Jack Taylor. I think he's a very reliable player. But are you excited that maybe Dan Neil can do what Jack Taylor can do, but maybe with a bit extra athleticism and fresh legs?
It feels a bit unfair on Jack Taylor, because he just hangs in there, keeps getting the shirt ahead of Jens Kjærst this season, and played in the Premier League as well, Taylor, didn't he? Hopefully it's a really good signing, as good a signing it looks like on paper, if we can pair up with Matasiva in central midfield. And it stops him, it would have been great for Coventry, wouldn't it? It stops him, although it seems to have got Onyeka there. So I think we didn't see him at the weekend, but 3-game week, and McKenna always kind of gives his hand away in the first game. You kind of then know who's going to play in the second game. What makes me a little bit sad, Gab, is that we live in a world where Sunderland and other teams piece together a promotion side, win the playoff final. As you mentioned, literally the captain is then available for loan, because the chasm between the Championship and the Premier League is such that you have to go and sign a new squad to compete, which Sunderland have done brilliantly, but massive association with the club there, and you'd want that captain to go through and have a chance in the Premier League. And I know you're going to talk about Watson and Patterson as well, and the team that won the playoffs is then available for loan in January.
I was going to say the three players who lifted the trophy on the balcony, I think that day, were Dan Neil, Luke O'Nien and Anthony Patterson, all who could leave the club or have left the club this window. And the guy who scored the most memorable goal in Sunderland's recent history, Watson, last kick of the game, now at Millwall on loan. And I just think it is sad, isn't it? That they are a team who created amazing memories for Sunderland, and you have to accept the fact that if Middlesbrough go up or Coventry go up or Hull go up, you to stay in the Premier League.
You say goodbye to that
sport.
team when the final whistle of the playoff final around 46 goes, don't you? It's sad, isn't it? Yeah.
And that is unfortunately the way it is. I will big up the signing because I think it's a really good addition for Millwall of Tom Watson. I think he's a player who we've seen have glimpses, and obviously the biggest glimpse came at Wembley, but a ball carrier, someone who can dribble through the line, someone who can pick the ball up. So maybe something different for Millwall this season as well, someone who could just add something. If they have him on one side and Femi Aziz on another, I look at that and I think that is a seriously strong attacking lineup.
Well, that leads me quite nicely onto my other pick, which is Barry Bannon, on the subject of Millwall.
We love Millwall, don't we, Gab?
We love Mill! because I think they have got a lot of young talent, and we've spoken about one of them. They've got really good specialists in 1v1 positions. They've got a serial goal scorer in Mihailo Ivanovic, who when he gets going is always capable of going on a nice run. They've got creative tens. I think they can do with a nice experienced head. Might not play 90 minutes Saturday, Tuesday, but can be a really good influence in running the dressing room, setting standards high on the training ground, and sort of being a bit of a cultural architect. And I think that's a really nice balance, just to break the model a little bit and offer something different. And plenty of technical quality as well, Barry Bannon, one of the best passers in the Championship. I think that's a really sound addition for Millwall.
Absolutely. I like the look of Zach Byner going to Wrexham, not Bristol City.
It's a very Wrexham signing, that. Yeah. A very solid guy who can play anywhere in a defensive shape, yeah?
Yeah, and also Wrexham, as they've shown basically through the whole summer window, just signing another player from a Championship club.
Direction of travel at Bristol City, it seems more outs than ins there, doesn't it?
Mehmeti gone, Byner gone. Yeah, maybe we should be slightly concerned, and we'll see how that develops moving forward. But as we say, we're recording this before the deadline's shut, which puts us in a bit of a difficult position.
Before they make their £8 million start signing that we don't know about right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to see on deadline day before the window shuts? Anything a team you think should do? I mean, Onyeka's not yet been announced by Coventry, which leaves me a little nervous, but need to make sure a midfielder comes through the door there, potentially even a left-back to get us over the line. Anything you'd like to see from another Championship club, Ben? Talking in the world of possibility.
I know we speak out of both sides of our mouth on here, but it would be great to see a gamble. Someone go for a sensible gamble, as in someone go for it and get it right. You know, whether that's Middlesbrough finding a striker or a little extra seasoning to add on it. Do you know what I mean? It'd be great to see someone make the deal that gets them over the line for promotion, wouldn't it?
Yeah, almost like Birmingham with Stansfield in League One, where they just went bang, there it is, done it, and ultimately it worked out in the end. Gab, anyone you want to see come in?
I think Blackburn Rovers could do with a centre forward, because they've only scored 26 goals this season, but their creative numbers are a lot higher than that, which suggests, and I don't look at Blackburn in their performances and think they're miles off it. I'm quite warming to Alabiosu, Morahita I quite like, Goodmanson, Johnson, but I think they're missing that clinical edge in front of goal, which is why they've maybe missed out on points that could otherwise have been there. So I think Blackburn could do with a centre forward.
Absolutely, we'll have to wait and see how the transfer window pans out. That's all we've got time for. Ben, Gab, thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for watching. Please do get your thoughts in the comments down below. Can Hull City really finish in the top 2 this season? Like and subscribe while you're there. We'll be back with the Sportsman Untitled Extra later in the week, so we'll see you then.